Today on Total Maine, needle waste. Portland Mayor Mark Dion wants to limit what's given out through the city's exchange program. The mayor is in studio to defend his proposal. And 8 investigates the use of police body cameras, which agencies use them, which don't, and why. Plus, in the arena, with just over a month left until Election Day, our expert panel looks at some of the most competitive races. Hey, good Sunday and welcome to Total Maine on this final Sunday in the month of September. I'm Terry Stackhouse. A hot button topic in the city of Portland right now is needle waste. Mayor Mark Dion says that he has a plan to address the problem, but it's not without pushback. Dion wants to limit how many syringes the city is giving out through its needle exchange program. If approved, people would be given 1 syringe for every 1 they turn in. Dion says City Hall is receiving constant complaints from businesses and residents over needles being littered in public places. Dion is citing some city data which shows that in 2023, the city gave out 786,000 needles, but only received 537,000, leaving more than 200,000 unaccounted for. We also found this state data, which shows a discrepancy of roughly 500,000 when comparing the number of needles distributed to the number collected at syringe service programs in their locations statewide. We're speaking now in studio with Mayor Dion. We're already seeing some pushback from some members of the council. How do you think that this is going to play out in October when you put this forward publicly? Do you think that the political will exists to get this through as you'd like?
I hope so. I mean, I believe the council, when confronted with the question, is going to have to make some serious consideration of the community interest. I mean, currently our needle exchange program focuses primarily on providing a safe injection experience for those suffering from substance use disorder. But I don't think there's been enough intentional consideration of the community interest that has arisen subsequent to all the needle waste.
Other communities are facing this too. Sanford is dealing with a seemingly parallel situation that their city leaders are taking up. There have been some complaints out of that city that Augusta isn't providing enough support or direction from the state CDC. Do you feel like you're getting help at a state level to try to address needle waste?
This is a local problem. I mean, I've alerted the governor's office about my intent to have the council consider returning to a 1-to-1 transfer, and that was the standard pre-COVID.
And then the governor changed that.
The governor provided an opportunity for those involved in needle exchange to raise the ratio to 100-to-1 as a way to reduce contact and to increase access during the COVID period when everybody was isolating. We've passed that now. And frankly, the 100-to-1 and sometimes 100-to-0 has created a parallel threat to the public safety as a consequence of those ratios. I want to get us back to a more common sense platform of 1-to-1.
For someone who lives with substance use disorder that may have made it a part of their routine, once a month, a couple times a month, they go to one of these centers and they get the needles that they intend to use. If that supply that they're used to is cut off, do you think part of their decision making could be, maybe it's time for me to try a different avenue here or get some help?
You know, I kind of recoil to the way you've described that. You make it almost sound like a suburban experience. I've grown accustomed to go to the certain store once a month and collect the things I need. I look at this population and they're captured by a very serious illness.
Sure.
I see them nodding off on the street corners, shooting up in alleys, hiding behind bushes to take in their next fix. These are individuals that we should be very intentional and very aggressive in soliciting their participation in a detox program. We built a $25 million shelter. We have a $6 million budget for that facility. We provide medication-assisted treatment. I want to get those individuals there, and it'll solve 2 problems. First and foremost, hopefully we can go through a health promotion model where we look for cessation for their need to use opiates. And second, it'll give them housing rather than the scattered sleeping about that we're seeing now.
There are some medical professionals that fear, though, that if this population doesn't have access to the same amount of needles, that there is the risk of sharing needles, reusing old ones, and having blood diseases. How does that factor into your decision making here? Do you worry about that?
I totally appreciate a medical point of view, but in some ways they're operating in a bubble. I'd say to those physicians, then come with me to neighborhood groups, answer the complaints I receive daily, take a look at the photos. I have Little League officials that say, look, we used to worry about the baseline and the condition of the turf. Now we have a team that scours the field looking for needles. It shouldn't be that way. That's their comments to me, and I agree.
What do you think is the likelihood of a compromise here, where maybe it's not necessarily one-to-one that finds support from the majority of the council, but some different factors there where I know that you'd mentioned the possibility of incentivizing people to collect same way that they would get some money for returning recyclables?
I think the Council Committee of Health and Human Services, Public Safety, is doing good work, and they're looking at alternatives that would help address this issue. One of them being paying a returnable fee for individuals bringing the needles. I'm saying fine. I am willing to explore other strategies. I'm not in lockstep with my own thinking. But as I told them, the floor is flooded. I want to turn down the faucet. Hopefully we have a much better chance of success if we reduce from 100 to 1-to-1. And in instances where they don't have a needle, historically we'd give them 10. Those are reasonable and proportional things to do. I think that's the key, is there has to be a balance. And right now, the general public, our residents, our visitors, our business owners have been left out of the conversation.
Our thanks to Mayor Mark Dion for coming in to discuss that. Much more to come this Sunday here on Total Maine, including a push for all of Maine's law enforcement agencies to use body cameras. Nora Hogan explains why many departments aren't on board quite yet. And there are 37 days until the November election, and endorsements keep on coming in, both for former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. We break down the latest from the campaign trail with the hosts of the In the Arena podcast when Total Maine returns. Stay with us. Now here's a great way to spend an early autumn Sunday, casting a few lines, especially at a beautiful spot like Sabbath Day Lake in New Gloucester. Our mysterious fishermen doing that again today. On the podcast this week, our panel of experts, they are asking if some of the big headline-making news items of the week courageous, cowardly, or calculated for those involved. So glad that the three of you are here on the Sunday, and we're coming on the heels of an interesting announcement here. 3 former GOP chairs have now endorsed Kamala Harris, of course, the Democratic nominee for the White House.
Well, and of course, more than one of those things can be true at a time, cowardly, calculated, or courageous. Right. But I will say, Phil, the 3 former chairs who have come out and said they're supporting Kamala Harris, Ted O'Meara, Bob Monks, and Ken Cole, not exactly household names unless you're hardcore, political watcher like you.
Right. I know them all well and like them. But
they were party chairs way back when you were in the legislature, right?
Back in the last century.
Yeah.
Their time has come and gone. Bob Monks essentially abandoned the party after his unsuccessful senatorial run. Ted O'Meara left the party to go support Elliott Cutler for governor. So they've got a track record of distancing themselves.
But is there a symbolic meaning here for
sure.
other Republicans in the state?
Yeah. And I think the reaction is going to be similar to mine. I know who you are. Your time has come and gone, and it's really not going to affect how I vote.
Ethan?
Yeah, I think this is courageous. Anytime you are in a party and you come out against your leadership, anytime you've been a former leader and you come out against your leadership in that party, that's going to be courageous. I don't think the individuals matter as much as the headline in the paper that says former GOP chairs endorse Kamala Harris. Look, we've seen hundreds of significant Republican leaders come out against Donald Trump across the country. All of them are courageous. I hope that more do it before all is said and done.
Another example of crossing party lines, Congressman Jared Golden voting with Republicans on a funding bill, the threat of a government shutdown too. Rumors of that, talk of that, potential, hopefully unlikely, but that's been swirling in D.C. too.
Yeah, and that's the bill that kind of had a poison pill attached to it for many that says you've got to prove you're a citizen before you can vote, Ethan.
Yeah, this was cowardly on the part of Congressman Golden. He's not going to get a single Republican vote for this. As we've talked about on the poll, Republicans are locked solid for Austin Theriault. It's Democrats he needs. So this was cowardly to vote for something that really isn't going to have any impact. You can't vote if you're not a citizen in a federal race. There's no evidence that that's going on. This would just punish people who aren't able to show up at a polling place with their birth certificate or their passport, which almost all of us never go to the polling place with.
I think it was very courageous of him and calculated. I agree with him on the continuing resolution, poison pill, as you might call it, where people would have to prove that they're a citizen in order to vote. And I think he's going to use that in the campaign ads ahead.
Talking about organized labor this morning as well. Teamsters not endorsing a candidate for the White House, even though their president, Sean O'Brien, spoke at the Republican National Convention.
Although he also wanted to speak at the Democratic Convention, kind of wants to be a presidential kingmaker, Phil. And these unions generally go Democratic. They certainly have in recent decades.
I think this is a very big news for them not to endorse anyone. It's almost a given historically that they would just rubber stamp the Democrat nominee. And as I understand it, they polled their rank and file members, and they overwhelmingly, I think it was like 56%, supported Trump.
That may be the key here, Ethan.
Look, I don't think it's courageous to take no position. How would that ever be courageous, right? It's cowardly to sit back. You want to say you're for Donald Trump? Go ahead and say it if you want to say it. But let's remember, of the 10 major unions in the country, 9 of them have endorsed Kamala Harris. That's not a rubber stamp. That's because Kamala Harris is better for working class people. So for the Teamsters Union to sit this one out, I think that is cowardly across the board, regardless of what they did.
All right, good analysis as always from our panel of courageous and calculated experts.
Never cowardly.
Sunday. No, never shying away from any topic.
Good morning, everyone.
New episodes of In the Arena, they come out every Thursday. You can watch on our website, WMTW.com, or take it along with you, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts.